A Di Đà Phật.
A Di Đà Phật.
Xin chào.
Chào.
Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Nam mô Quan Thế Âm Bồ Tát. Yes.
Okay, welcome to our group interview, an ultimate group interview of the year. Next week will be our last one because I'm gifting myself a month retreat.
Do we have any planets impacting our lives? Certainly, because there is a gravitational field, there is many dimensions of connection, that are very subtle and that we don't have awareness of. So, are planets affecting us? Yes, just in the same way that the environment that we find ourselves in now is affecting us. And the same is also true of, how many times do I, or how many times should we meditate every day? Each breath, every breath, here and now, meditation is continuously taking place, whether you like it or not. As long as you return to mindfulness, as long as you return to not grasping and fixating and getting wrapped up and tied up in something or someone, some experience, then you're meditating at that moment. So we can try, we can endeavor to keep being mindful, to keep being aware of what's happening rather than getting entangled and tied up in what's happening. And what allows us to do that is detachment, that we can detach from the grasping point. And in that sense, the grasping point is the detachment point. The point where we stop meditating is the point where we are able to continue in meditation.
You can also put your questions in the chat, though they're deprioritized. If you're putting questions in the chat, I'll only get them if you're home. We oftentimes have some people on the call who've never spoken to before online. I see a few newcomers at the moment. There might be some of you in the group. So if that's you, please feel welcome to stay and listen to the questions and the answers to others. Please wait until we've spoken one-on-one before asking your questions in the group.
there is no you.
without meditation.
You know, that's a Buddhist philosophical principle that there is no self, that there is no separate self entity that owns something or is something in particular. And while we may not have an experience of that, or we may believe that to greater or lesser degrees, we should respect that position, the position of non self, the position of non ownership.
Same, same. Kusala towards whatever is your meditation object, from here all the way to Nibbana. Kusala all day long.
If no one else is asking, I'll ask a question. Being in the States with a fairly fresh election, a lot of my friends, myself, the atmosphere has a lot of fear in it, and I was wondering if you would just talk about.
This is shu puer tea. So fermented,
Full moon gathering that I
kind of like a fermented black tea. You could see it that way.
December. It's one of, I'm only doing 2 Zoom calls in December, but that's going to be one of them. So we're doing that full moon gathering on the topic of clinging to views, because this was requested by some of my US students. We tend to have this defilement, many of us, it crops up in different ways, that everybody else is clinging to views, but this view that I'm clinging to is a really valid, important one that will definitely make the world a better place. And I think some of what's happening may be fear, but some of what's happening is that clinging to views is challenged. And there can be a lot of identity and different things tied up in the way that we relate to our views about how things should be, how the world should, arguing with reality, and then we don't get.
That's right. A lot of our suffering is mental. It exists in the mind, and Buddhism isn't that you're going to. It's not opiates, right? You're not going to take a few Buddhism pills and kind of feel pleasurable release. Pleasurable relaxation. I mean, when's the last time I had opium? Probably past lives. But that's the idea of it. And so, in dealing with this complex mental suffering that we kind of have to go through, but also that keeps us from making use of new and varied opportunities that we come across in our lives, we, how I work with it is I cultivate a sense of contrasting the insanity of grasping an attachment onto views, onto ideas, onto concepts, onto stories about my life with mindfulness. So, as much as I have mindfulness, I can be free, or I can be aware, or I can be um, not having a panic attack just because I feel anxiety or just because there's some kind of mental stress going on in the mind. So detachment allows us to continue being mindful in the face of mental phenomena. And the more that we can go through the cloud or the mist of mental phenomena, the more we can be deeply and truly mindful of what's happening now. And what's happening now, and this is a view that I entertain, is not a story, is not story based, is not based in concepts. There may be an element or an aspect of the now or what's happening that is conceptual, but that's largely your own mind, right? And it's not the truth. And what we find as we look more into Buddhism is that a lot of times the principles or the praxis of our intellectual or mental position or mental understanding that we hold is not at all in line with what the Buddha taught, right? Which, as a Buddhist or as a practitioner, is something that we're very interested in. And we can kind of communicate about that and go back and forth about that to explore it. Uh, Also, we can just look more and more closely at what is already happening in the body, in the mind, in the environment, in this moment, and also in our lives. What are we doing? What are we involved with? What are we engaging with? What are we giving most of our life force to? And if what you're giving most of your life force to is not aligned with your heart, then you're going to have a lot of suffering and a lot of problems. Okay, Eric, you can find the One Chip Challenge with two Buddhist monks on the YouTube channel, my YouTube channel. 1971 speed bump. How do you know if meditation is working? I try to meditate at least 10 minutes every morning. Of course, I'm an American, so I want instant gratification. Well, we should try to make it so that the meditation that we're practicing on the cushion, or the meditation that we practice when we sit cross-legged or sit in a chair and focus our mind, is something that can extend into the rest of our life. So, for example, mindfulness of breathing or awareness of what's happening now that's not based in thinking. So, the more that you can do that in your daily life, well, then your meditation is working. But Buddhist meditation is more multifaceted than just sitting and focusing on the breath. So, for example, you want to have a relationship with generosity, practically, and you want to have a relationship with following precepts, practically. And this is maybe the most practically, you want to have a relationship with listening to Dhamma talks. So you want to identify teachers that you have a capacity to listen to, that are more or less well known, and listen to their teachings, listen to their talks, listen to their advisements, and put them into practice. Those are my tips for meditation. The nowness, let's call it a nowness, that's being emphasized in the path of meditation is already. So it's almost like our meditation practice is learning how to deal with that, how to accept that. That there's nothing to get out of this moment, or there's nothing to get out of this experience, can actually be very peaceful. And very insightful as well. So, kind of allowing peaceful insight to take place. So when we sit like that and we be like that, actually the underlying thoughts or the underlying habit energies, they start to kind of arise into awareness, right? And that it can express in so many different ways. You could start hearing things or seeing things or feeling things in the body, etc., etc. And then you allow that peaceful insight to reverberate in space, in awareness. Okay, am I even doing this correctly? Well, is it peaceful and insightful and natural and just aware? Then it's correct for now. Because the now is like that. The now is peacefully aware. And it can be uh, very intense as well. It can be like a nuclear bomb of peaceful awareness. That's true. And that's the wisdom, that's the compassion, that's the insight of the Buddha. Even a nuclear bomb cannot disturb the Buddha. So we can know if our practice is working if we are ready for a nuclear bomb. If our peaceful awareness, if our presence is all inclusive at that moment. And then when that all inclusiveness is being nurtured at this moment, we invite those nuclear bombs of the knots in our mind, the knots in our body to arise and to pacify them and peacify them. Not about gaining anything. Okay? And so the same, Ari, with uncertainty. It's not about getting any understanding. It's not about gaining an understanding. Everything is already the way that it is. And the way that it is the way that it should be. So the uncertainty is kind of a confusion. that there could be something to be certain about, but there's no thing to be certain about. Again and again and again, continuously, like getting hit on the head with a, let's be gentle, with a hammer of water, a hammer made of water that reforms itself. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. But it's just water, just air, just fire, just earth, just a nature. Just as it is. And that's very powerful. There's a lot of healing in that, not just mental healing, but physical healing as well. And it's not about it being exciting or not, it being pleasurable or not. It's about the depth of nothingness that we take refuge in. And then when our defilements come up, and this is very anti-American, I'm sorry. So I've got some complaints recently that I'm not speaking too much about American culture or Western culture, but ill will, negative thinking towards someone, towards something, is a virus of the mind. It is to be forgiven. It is to be dropped. It is to be seen and renounced. And this nothingness or spaciousness of a mind that is not grasping, the mind of non grasping, gives a very clear view about why ill will is not appropriate. But it does so naturally, not with justification, not with cognition, because the justification and cognition are so often what reify this sense of self, reify this sense of separation, which is not wise, not insightful. Rising, falling, mental exercise. A lot of meditation. It can be seen as a kind of mental exercise. Not everybody is interested to exercise, so that's okay. But we can exercise on their behalf. And when we practice meditation, we're getting very close with the workings of the mind. So that we can be more and more skillful to take care and to participate in the inner engineering of the mind. We take refuge in Sangha, we take refuge in community, community of well-minded practitioners, because the engineering of the mind is so complex, so many different parts, so many different aspects. And we need not be discouraged if we can support each other in those moments of flat tire, broken radiator. The main issue with, because a lot of people are having this question and this situation about psychedelics, right? The main issue is that one does not have the practical tools or skill to apply this energy in the mind, right, or this intensity in the mind. So, in this way, it's not really recommended, or it's impossible for a spiritual teacher, someone who's guiding people in the workings of the mind, to recommend psychedelics, because um, you may not have the community, the tools, the skills, or the proper attention to be able to make use of that medicine, right? That's why when we look at the Johns Hopkins research and other modern medical research on psychedelics, there's there's professionals involved, right? There's monitoring involved. There's a lot of safeguards in place that most people don't have. And when we have a view about spirituality, that it's some special experience that we're trying to get or go towards, psychedelics are just going to make more and more problems for us, because that's not the path, right? That's not the way. The way is here and now. It's not about getting something or going somewhere or anything like that at all. And it will never be about that. So from that insight, from that wisdom, that's where we build community. That's where we conduct healing circles. That's where we share our experience together and discuss the Dhamma and the teachings. Very important to understand. There's a lot of scientific research out there about psychedelics being useful medicinally for mental health issues. But, you wouldn't find some SSRIs in somebody's, medicine cabinet and then go to town and be like, yes, some antidepressant SSRIs, some anti-anxiety SSRIs. Now I'm going to do some real work. So it's just because there's a pleasure associated with the psychedelics, or there's a special intense experience associated with the psychedelics, that we tend to lean on them and cling to them. And tea is a psychedelic, or caffeine is a psychedelic. Which is why so many people are, using caffeine so often, but um, it's not a particularly dangerous one for most people. Whereas when you talk about mushrooms or ayahuasca or LSD or anything else along those lines, these can be very dangerous, and it's not something to just think that that's going to give you a spiritual power or cure your mental health issues, because the depth to which you are mentally ill, if you are at all, which you aren't, is deeper than the ocean, you see? And then once we get to this place of openness, concerned with our consciousness, we see very clearly that you aren't the only human being here. There are other human beings here. And, you know, the systems of a capitalism or debate or, you know, racism, sexism, childism, ableism, speciesism, and environmentalism are, you know, discriminatory systems that are not very good or wise. But they are the systems that are in place. So a lot of what we have to do is unpacking and unraveling. And to do that, we need to trust nothingness. And through trusting nothingness, trust the Sangha or the community of well-minded practitioners, as much as we can determine that. But if we can't communicate through generosity, then we aren't able to really form a base of trust. Because it's just like separated clumps of self-fixation trying to maintain themselves, you know, and that's not the reality. So we want to go in accords with the reality communally, not just in terms of other human beings, but the environment and you know, the bugs and the living and non-living beings. Please. But we have to really, the only access for that is through donation, generosity, cooperation, communication, caring, sharing, offering protection, offering care, offering resources. Say, hey, I've got some resources here. What do you know, can I help you? Can I support you? It does surprise me. You know, I have people that do care about me in that way, you know, and I know that, but it surprises me how rare it is to hear someone say and to mean it, you know, hey, if you need anything, let me know. And, you know, it's very important as human beings, especially if we want to build community, to do that. You need a place to stay. You need food to eat. You need a ticket somewhere. Anything I can help with or support, please let me know. I think I'm more affiliated with expressing myself that way because I have been on the receiving end of so much support and care and consideration in the Buddhist community. In the Sangha. unknowable, unponderable, not worthwhile to ponder or to try to know. And to also to share knowledge, but knowledge that's based on experience, not knowledge that's based on ideas that we have about things. Because that's less and less valuable with the advent of ChatGPT and other such resources. Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you so much, Sonia. Gratitude. Sabitio vivachantu sabaroko vinasatu ma beva danasilicha ayu ano sukam bharam sadhu sadhu sadhu. And renunciation is a kind of generosity, because there's a power in renunciation of what are you willing to give up, and that skill or that ability to give up is very connected to that skill of detachment, and how much do we want to give up? Well, we want to give up a lot of things. We want to let go of a lot of things so we can share that power with each other to let go of certain habits, certain ways of thinking, letting go of ill will, renouncing ill will.
Hear her say like, oh, you know, some people have these experiences where they feel like it's profound because it's the most empty they've ever been. And I'm going, yeah, that hit home. It's like, you know, how often people have this experience of, they're just experiencing the profound, when really the profoundness is just the most empty you've ever felt, but there's still so much more.
It is the tea that you see.
Yeah.
I mean, it's different water, maybe cleaner water.
Yeah.
Still,
Still, yes, yeah, yeah, that's so true. This is, I think, part of my relationship probably is like, I clear something out and then it's like, oh, it's too empty, I need to go fill it again.
Actually, like, I see somewhere on the horizon, like, there's a list I want to do in life, and there's like, maybe there's end somewhere there, you know.
And
Well,
End of the list.
let's leave it at here for today.
Yeah.
For now, namaste, blessings, love and light,
okay, I was
be happiness,
she was talking about
be peacefulness, be freedomness,
that we're always, yeah, I mean, it's
in
just
whatever it is.
global in a way, but we're always,
Sadhu.
trying to continue our existence.
Yeah.